Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the week. It's the Q&A video. I take questions from you guys about the markets, about charts you're concerned about things you're looking at, generally speaking, in regards to macroeconomy, traditional markets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I answer the questions you have on those topics, right? Very insightful, generally speaking. We get through a wide variety of topics, and there's always something in these kind of videos for everyone. So go to the timestamps down below, navigate through to the questions you want to hear answered, or just watch the whole thing. I only answer questions that I think would be useful to most people. We've got questions on a wide variety of topics today, looking into my personal trading career, how long it took me to become profitable, some blunders I made in the early days, questions about institutional interest and whether that will change the Bitcoin 4-year cycle or the bear market, questions about the bear market itself, by the way, and how big the bear market will be in comparison to what we've seen historically speaking, whether it will have a diminishing return like the bull market or not, where a bear market could go, questions about coins like XRP and Ethereum and my takes on those, questions about the altcoin season, and also questions about someone like Jason Pizzino calling for an extended bear market. So guys, before we get into it, check out the Bitunix Exchange. A lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global, it's non-KYC, it's never been hacked before, it's got all of the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers. First question from Kayla. She's essentially asking, with all of the sovereign adoption, El Salvador, with the ETFs, with companies buying Bitcoin on a mass scale, with the US government even hosting a Bitcoin strategic reserve, do I think the 4-year cycle will break, and do I think we can avoid a significant bear market? Now, I'm going to actually conjoin this question with another question down here from Callum. Callum says, do you think institutional investment will cause the traditional 70% drop on Bitcoin in the bear market to not be as harsh? So basically, two of these questions here, both basically asking the same thing. With Bitcoin's massive amount of institutional interest in the last few years, will the bear market or the 4-year cycle fundamentally change? Something to get on the table off the bat here is that the 4-year cycle is not based on any specific percentage gain or loss in a bull market or the bear market. So the question, or part of the question, was, will institutional interest in Bitcoin diminish the negative return in the bear market? Will institutional investment on Bitcoin soften the blow in the bear market? That is kind of unrelated in a way to the 4-year cycle. The 4-year cycle has nothing to do with the percentage return in the bull market or the bear market. It has to do with the dates. It has to do with how long the bear market lasts. And I see no real reason to assume that the bear market will be shortened or lengthened to the point in which it will break the 4-year cycle simply because of institutional interest. We have seen dramatic changes to the macroeconomy and the way people react to Bitcoin historically, and all throughout the 4-year cycle has remained. So I don't think it would break the 4-year cycle, or at least I don't think it would be the primary cause of a hypothetical 4-year cycle break. But what it could do is it could lessen the blow of a bear market. That is highly possible. But even with that, it's important to note a couple of things. The bear market is already getting weaker and weaker over time, in the same way that the bull market is getting weaker and weaker, right? Bull market returns have gone from 11,000% to the next cycle. We saw only 2,000%, and this cycle so far, we've only seen 600%. It's very unlikely we get higher than 1,000%. The point is, returns to the upside are diminishing, and so are returns to downside. The first cycle, we saw an 86% negative return. We saw an 84% negative return the next time. And the last time we saw, I believe, a 77% negative return, right? If that trend continues, right, we saw a 7% difference in negative return between this cycle here and this cycle here. If we see that again, we'd only see a 70% negative return this cycle, let's just say hypothetically we top at 130,000, that would bring us to a bottom of the bear market at 40,000. So the bear markets are getting more tame gradually anyway. That's just how, markets work. That's how coins and assets that raise their market cap cycle on cycle work. You see diminishing returns, of course, because you can't swing as volatile as it was back 10 years ago when it was still in its infancy. As to whether the institutional interest in Bitcoin could even further lessen a bear market return, for example, we see a 30% bear market or something like that, it's possible, but it's completely unbased, based on nothing essentially to hypothesize. But again, it's just important to remember the key point. The percentage return we see in the bull market or the bear market has nothing to do with the 4-year cycle at all, really, because the 4-year cycle is actually stemming from traditional markets as well, like the presidential cycle theory. And also, bear market returns are already getting lower and lower, and bull market returns are doing the same cycle on cycle. So we have to be able to actually see a return that is significantly lower than what we would expect cycle on cycle to be confident that anything has actually changed due to an independent factor like institutional interest. Even then, it would be difficult to pin it down certainly to institutional interest being the reason why Bitcoin didn't go down as much, because that's not really how markets work. They don't tell us why they're doing the things they're doing. They just do the things they're doing, and we have to just guess what the cause of it is. Can you tell us about you? Why did you get into trading? How long was your journey to profitability? Did you do anything before that helped, like uni or a job in finance? I got into trading very young. In fact, before I was even legally allowed to trade, I was trading. That's the beauty of cryptocurrency, especially back in the day when nothing was required to get on exchanges. Now it's a bit more difficult, except for on Bitunix, of course. That's a shameless shill. I was working a job in fast food, and I had breaks in that job, and basically after the work as well, I'd be doing Uber Eats driving, just driving around with nothing to do but listen to music. And so I decided to listen to podcasts instead. I stumbled upon cryptocurrency podcasts and got very interested in the space from a fundamental perspective, and saw that as a way to make money while I was struggling to make money in a low-paying fast food job and doing Uber Eats. Essentially, I just utilized my time that I already had and was using on other things, and tried to throw in educational content in regards to crypto and markets in that time space. So again, like when I was driving, I'd listen to a podcast that was actually going to help me be more efficient in my trading and investing and learn more about the market instead of just blasting Deftones. As for how long it took to be profitable, it took years, to be honest, and I had major losses. I lost my entire net worth twice within the first year of starting trading. It's not easy at all. It's not for someone who has, all of these obligations. You can't just throw your entire net worth into trading if you've got people who depend on you. Luckily, I was young enough at the time when I didn't, and I did have the income just basically disposable. Like if I lost it, it didn't really mean anything. I was still working the same job, living in the same place. It wouldn't really matter if I lost all my money. And so I was in a position in which I could take the risk. Obviously, if you're not in that position, you've got to be a bit more cautious about it. But yeah, it took a long time, at least 2 years of consistent trading before I was profitable just by trading alone. As to whether I did anything that helped, I was at university. I studied media and finance, a double degree. I never finished it because trading took off and I saw no reason to finish it, but I got about halfway through and I suppose that helped a little bit, but honestly, I think I could have done it without. But I suppose the key takeaway there is that, it's not going to be easy getting into trading. And if you can't handle losing your net worth on multiple occasions, which happens to most traders, by the way, most people I've spoken to who have gotten successful in trading have literally lost everything more than once, okay? If you aren't comfortable with that, don't do it, right? Stick to swing trading, stick to long-term investing. There's no shame in that whatsoever. Most people can't handle that emotionally, and most people as well, just bluntly, don't have the time to learn everything you need to learn to become a profitable trader. It is a full-time job. It is not something you can do for an hour a week and be successful. Simply not. Do you think we see the classic US summer chop between July and September? 3 months left in the cycle doesn't give us much time for a final blow off top if we see a crab market for the famous boring US summer market. So basically, the 4-year cycle is expected to end around October, give or take, which is 3.5 months away. And it is true to some extent. I'm not going to sit here and claim that it's gospel because it's not, but it is true to some extent that in the US summer, markets do tend to stagnate more or less. However, what is also true is that you need to look at the cyclical context for this occurring before you apply it to right now, because US summer market stalling doesn't generally occur in 4-year cycle bull market years, especially for cryptocurrency. In fact, every single bull market we've seen so far on Bitcoin has had the parabolic leg in the exact time period you're talking about, except for maybe 2013, which was the first cycle and a very infantile version of Bitcoin at that point. But 2017, summer meant nothing, we skyrocketed. 2021, summer meant nothing, we pretty much skyrocketed as well on both occasions, right? In 2020 and 2021. And so for that reason, I think the cyclical context overweighs any potential trends we might have of how markets perform in certain times of the year. So I'm not concerned about that at all. Combining two questions here, do I think altcoin season will actually start? And should we sell our altcoins if Bitcoin tops out and we haven't seen an altcoin season yet? Answer to the first question, I'm in the camp that altcoin season is probably going to occur. Simultaneously, I recognize that it won't be as strong, in my view, as prior altcoin seasons because the market environment we've seen so far on Bitcoin has not been conducive to bullish altcoin performance. What we saw historically in Bitcoin was very sharp, very aggressive bull markets with very little downtime, right? 2021, even the big drop in 2021 was over within 2 months. That has not been the case this time, right? We've seen very slow, sluggish bull market with aggressive steps to the upside. But again, using the word steps there because we level out for months and months and months on end, 8 months. Actually, it's happened on 3 occasions now. Stepping to the upside, seeing a 200-day consolidation, 200-day consolidation, again, a 200-day consolidation. That kind of boring 200-day consolidation pattern followed by a short move is not going to be bullish for altcoins. Of course, just use your brain here. What are altcoins? Why do altcoins go upwards? Why do altcoins only go upwards during peak parabolia in the markets? Because they rely on greed. They rely on hype. Altcoins are not really about fundamentals. They're not really about being here in 10 years like Bitcoin is. People don't buy altcoins necessarily for, what the actual project means, and they don't just hold on to it blindly during a bear market like they do with Bitcoin on the vast majority of occasions. And the people who do get wrecked over and over and over again, right? This is just a given fact. Altcoins go upwards when people are incredibly greedy and people see Bitcoin as not good enough. They see Bitcoin rising and they think, I can do better elsewhere and get bigger returns elsewhere. I'm too late to buy Bitcoin. I'm going to buy this microcap altcoin instead. That's when altcoins do well. And that kind of mentality only arises when Bitcoin is very engaging. Right now, in this cycle, Bitcoin has been very, very boring on 3 separate occasions. Of course, altcoins are not doing well. And we've seen that. We've seen, 320-day altcoin seasons twice in a row in the past. There was a trend developing there. In order to see a 320-day altcoin season, it would have needed to start in November, assuming we top out in October as per the 4-year cycle. We're months past October now. We're months past, November now. We're in July. And so if we see something, of course, it's going to be smaller. It's going to be smaller in time, and it's probably going to be smaller in scale as well. But do I think we'll see something? I probably do. I do believe that Bitcoin will probably see another parabolic leg to the upside. And I think it has been proven so far in the way that Ethereum has been reacting to Bitcoin's local moves, that Ethereum is ready to move upwards. Ethereum is really ready to outperform Bitcoin. Let's just go ahead and overlay the Ethereum chart onto the Bitcoin chart here and show you. As I said before, if the trend was going to be continued, we were going to start the altcoin season in November. And Ethereum looked absolutely great against Bitcoin until November. It's only in November when Bitcoin stagnated once again that Ethereum just dove because it people recognized, whether directly or indirectly, that we weren't keeping up with where we were meant to be on Ethereum in regards to price cycles, or in reference to price cycles, in comparison, I should say, to price cycles. And we dropped massively. Ethereum got wrecked, altcoins got wrecked. But in the recent months, Ethereum has done very well against Bitcoin. We look at the Ethereum return since April, we see a return of about 108%, while Bitcoin in that same period of time has not returned anywhere near that, right? Bitcoin has only had a return in that same period of time of around 50%. Ethereum's doubled the Bitcoin performance, even after the massive crash it had. On top of that, the Ethereum BTC chart, the chart that literally measures the direct strength of Ethereum against Bitcoin, is looking incredibly bullish. It's looking like it's bottoming out. It's on major support in a bullish triangle formation with a bullish momentum shift coming soon, right? This is a very, very good sign. And 2, by the way, very, very good signs that altcoins will recover in some capacity. Will they see an altcoin season as big as what we've seen historically? No, I don't think so. I don't think we have the time for that. But altcoin seasons can be very aggressive in the short period of time. For example, we saw a Bitcoin dominance dropping, basically the bulk of the Bitcoin dominance drop occurring 61% to 40%. A drop in Bitcoin dominance occurred within 6 weeks, right? It doesn't take long for altcoins to do something. We don't need a lot of time. We just need to see some sort of bullish market environment for altcoins, which I think Bitcoin will facilitate if it manages to get the breakout it's looking for here. The breakout zone is massive, guys. It's simply massive. It stems right backwards from 2017. A break from that level would be huge for Bitcoin. I think it would give us the hype we need. Again, it's all speculative. You can't know for sure. And given the fact that altcoins have been getting wrecked so far this cycle, it's not like I can be certain of it. But what I can say is this, right? The way that money flows in cryptocurrency has remained the same year on year on year on year, even given altcoins doing badly this cycle. And that is that it goes like this. It goes from Bitcoin, okay, into Ethereum, into altcoins, okay, into stables. This is how money flows in cryptocurrency. Money flows first into Bitcoin. Bitcoin pumps. They get sick of Bitcoin. They flip their money into Ethereum, and from there it trickles down into altcoins. By the time the money has hit altcoins, by the time altcoins are flying, people have nowhere else to put their money. The market stops attracting new people because altcoins are already too expensive. Everything crashes and the money flows back into stable coins. From there, people watch Bitcoin drop and they eventually buy back into Bitcoin. The whole cycle repeats. That is the way that cryptocurrency has always worked, right? And until something definitively cracks, we can't really assume that that trend is broken just yet. So I am, let's say, 75% confident that we see some sort of altcoin season. And I'm 90% confident that it won't be as strong as what we've seen historically, but I do still think it will be notable. Now, as for the second part of the question, should we sell our altcoins if Bitcoin tops out and the altcoin season hasn't happened yet? Absolutely, yes. I think you should do that because generally speaking, altcoin season and the end of altcoin season has marked the absolute end of the bull market itself. If Bitcoin tops out, right, if Bitcoin fully tops out and altcoins haven't even begun moving, that is a horrible sign. Now, it is also true, and you need to understand this because this is a nuanced question, believe it or not. It is also true that generally speaking, altcoins see the bulk of their performance after the Bitcoin top, right? That is true, right? 2017, Ethereum kept running for a month after Bitcoin topped out. It saw the bulk of its gains in that period of time, actually. Same thing in 2021 in the first half of the cycle. But the key point is, altcoins need to have done something before Bitcoin tops, okay? We can't just be blindly holding altcoins after the Bitcoin top while altcoins are still on the ground and haven't started moving, right? In all occasions, even though Ethereum and altcoins generally run longer than Bitcoin, they at least do something and show some side of strength before the Bitcoin top. You can't just be holding blindly with no signs of life and expect altcoins to pump massively after Bitcoin tops out. You need to have the momentum there. Bitcoin leads the way, Bitcoin tops first, altcoins continue running for a little bit after that. The key word there is continue running. They need to have started running. I'm not going to dive too much into fundamentals here, but I want to answer a question about my thoughts on XRP and Ethereum from a technical perspective, and I want to do it very briefly. It's worth noting, very important to note, right, that XRP and Ethereum are both reliant almost fully on Bitcoin, especially in the case of Ethereum, right, but even in the case of XRP. They do not do well without Bitcoin doing well first. They also do not, right, have an extensive enough history or any significant macro trends to mark their performance in any sort of interesting distinction between that of Bitcoin. They have not been around long enough, and they don't have any important indicators in the same way that Bitcoin does. We simply, do not have the clarity for XRP and Ethereum in the way we do with Bitcoin. The good news about Ethereum specifically is that with Ethereum, it's more reactive to Bitcoin. It's the second in command. It's the leader of the altcoin market. So we can be a little bit more insightful about what happens to Ethereum. But in the case of XRP, it is purely, to an extent, gambling. You are trusting your interpretation of its fundamentals to drag it upwards. And what we know about altcoins definitively is that fundamentals don't mean much at all, right? You can have a coin with excellent fundamentals that never gets picked up, that never gets held onto in a bear market. Luckily, Ethereum has avoided, and XRP have avoided that fate so far. And at the moment, that's great. But it would not surprise me at all if XRP specifically, because it's smaller, does not succeed long term. It wouldn't. I don't care what the fundamentals are, right? Wanchain, here's a coin for you. Wanchain, WANCHAIN, had a partnership with the State Grid Corporation of China, the second largest company in the entire world. And it never surpassed, I think, like 500 million market cap, and that was in 2021, and now it's dead. Fundamentals are not the be-all, end-all. Some people like Jason Pizzino, whom I respect, are calling for a possible extended bear market come 2026. Is this something you see as plausible? Only if the bull market top distinguishes itself from the regular 4-year cycle. If we see a bull market top later than expected or earlier than expected, then it stands to reason that the bear market bottom could come at a totally different time than the 4-year cycle expects. If the bull market top comes in October, we wouldn't have much reason to believe the bear market would extend. Right? If the bull market breaks the 4-year cycle, yes, the bear market is also going to break the 4-year cycle. Until I see evidence of that, I'm not willing to make any speculation about it beyond regular cycle. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something useful out of it. Understand that I have to keep these videos relatively short, the answers to the questions relatively short, and so I miss out on some of the nuances, but that's because I'm just answering like 10 in a row, so I can't really go too in-depth into all of them as not to make this video 1 hour long. But if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and also check out the Bitunix Exchange. A lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global, it's non-KYC, it's never been hacked before, it's got all of the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers.